Minister.
If the reset deal is supposed to make an end to the SPS checks, when will the customs posts, which are there for the purpose of carrying out those checks, be demolished? Instead, of course, the Secretary of State willingly presides over the ever-tightening EU noose on our economy, with agricultural machinery, the latest that has to kowtow to EU diktats. Meanwhile, trade diversion is rampant and the Secretary of State looks the other way. When will the Secretary of State stop acting as the Secretary of State for the EU and start acting as the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland?
Well, I don't accept, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman's characterisation, because at some point he has got to acknowledge that following our departure from the European Union, and this was the issue that the previous government had to address, United Kingdom one set of rules, EU with another set of rules, open border. How are you going to deal with that? And I'm afraid mutual enforcement, the only idea I've ever heard him put forward, is not a practical proposition. So he needs to take some responsibility for the consequence of his own arguments.
Claire Hanna.
The EU-UK deal was very warmly and broadly welcomed across Northern Ireland to begin to unpick and undo some of the damage and the friction created by Brexit that was championed by some of those on the opposite benches. An FSB report out this week, though, that did highlight continuing problems for particularly small businesses. Can the Secretary of State reassure businesses that there will be co-design and full consultation as the text and the outworkings of this very positive deal are brought through?
Well, we will, of course, continue to consult as widely as possible in taking forward the agreement that has been reached in outline with the European Union. There is help available for small businesses. It is important that it is as effective and easy to understand for those that are seeking to trade, and I will, of course, look carefully at the report the FSB has produced.
Alex Easton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Secretary of State, regarding the EU trade agreement, what barriers are you aware of that currently hinder free and unfettered trade from Northern Ireland within the UK, and what is the timescale for their removal?
Well, goods flow freely from Northern Ireland to the rest of the United Kingdom, and one of the great advantages of the trade agreements that have been negotiated with India, with the United States of America and with the European Union is, in the case of India, a significant reduction of tariffs on whisky, which will benefit whisky producers in Northern Ireland, be able to sell lamb into India, and the deal with the United States of America will allow Northern Ireland farmers to sell their beef.
Mike Wood. Minister Gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Contrary to what the Secretary of State has just told the House, 2 weeks ago the Federation of Small Businesses in Northern Ireland published a report suggesting that a third of small businesses who move goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland have ceased supplying customers or partners either in Great Britain or in Northern Ireland. Now, under the Northern Ireland Protocol, if the UK experiences diversion of trade, we are entitled to take unilateral action to safeguard our internal market. So will the Secretary of State tell the House, does he think that a third of small businesses ceasing trade in this way amounts to a diversion of trade? And if not, perhaps he could tell us what would.
So the
honourable gentleman, there are other small businesses that are able to trade. Perfect. Well, no, the point that he needs to recognise is if some small businesses manage to move their goods from GB to Northern Ireland, then others can do so. Now, in the end, it is an individual business decision for a business where it chooses to sell its goods. It is the Windsor Framework that applies now, not the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the Windsor Framework represented, as he will, I think, accept, a very significant improvement on what was there before.
Al Pinkerton, Liberal Democrats Post.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Confederation of Small Businesses has indeed warned that SMEs in Northern Ireland continue to face disruption under the Windsor Framework. But more importantly, and sadly, that the government has failed to effectively communicate the supposed benefits of dual market access so far. So if dual market access is indeed a competitive advantage, as so many people across this House think it can be and should be, can the Secretary of State specifically identify what concrete benefits it's providing to Northern Ireland businesses right now? And how does he respond to the growing criticism from firms across the UK who are burdened with red tape and the fog of uncertainty?
Well, I was very interested by that observation in the FSB report because, as the House will testify, I spend a lot of my time extolling the virtues of the dual market access that Northern Ireland has got as a result of the Windsor Framework. And I meet companies as I travel around Northern Ireland who tell me about the benefits that they are feeling of it. I think all of us have a responsibility to extol the virtues of dual market access because, in my experience, if businesses can see an opportunity that allows them to sell more products, they will seize it with both hands.
Yeah. Question number 3, please, Mr. Speaker. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I'll answer questions 3, 5 and 12 together. I take every opportunity to promote investment into Northern Ireland and our tech companies in particular. I recently spoke at the Big Data Conference in New York and at London Tech Week to highlight our cutting-edge companies in Northern Ireland. And I held a roundtable with tech business leaders and visited Catagen in Belfast just last week to talk about the industrial strategy and ways that we can boost investment and growth.
Steve Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her answer. I wonder if the Minister might outline the many good reasons for technology companies to invest in Northern Ireland and what she's done to promote that great opportunity.
Minister.
I welcome the opportunity to promote Northern Ireland's tech companies here in the Chamber today. More than 1,500 international companies have set up operations in Northern Ireland. They tell me it's the government support, the strong working between the government and the executive, it's dual market access, it's the unique concentration of tech companies and the academic support from Ulster and Queen's universities. But above all, it's the people. Northern Ireland has a workforce with industry-ready skills and innovation in their DNA.
Emily Darlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister agree with me the strength of the Northern Ireland tech sector means it can play a huge part in becoming an AI superpower as supported by this government? However, as we just heard in the Northern Ireland Select Committee chaired by the honourable member from the Gower, there is a huge link between online safety and the rates of domestic abuse that we are seeing in Northern Ireland. Can she comment on how we can absolutely support and develop the sector while keeping women and girls safe?
Minister.
We know that violence against women and girls is an epidemic, and online safety is an important part of that. Coupled with Northern Ireland being an AI superpower, as she rightly says, there are opportunities here for AI companies, and I've met many of them, to work on the tech which can ensure that perpetrators are caught, justice is done, and that we make sure that online safety as well is taken extremely seriously. And the industrial strategy, the work that it will do to promote AI work with the new AI growth zones, for example, can ensure that we lock that in.
Neil Coyle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tech businesses are huge in my central London constituency, and I recognise that for the UK to do well, we need London to continue thriving, and for Northern Ireland and the rest of the country to succeed too. So can the Minister assure me that the full benefits of the new industrial strategy will support companies in Northern Ireland, and that this government is generating business opportunities for every corner of the United Kingdom?
The industrial strategy is good news for Northern Ireland. It's a bold, long-term plan to give businesses and investors the certainty they need to thrive. The 8 sectors of the strategy map well with Northern Ireland's world-class strengths, including advanced manufacturing, cyber, defence, creative industries, life sciences and financial services. For each of these, there's increased UK-wide funding opportunities, and in Northern Ireland there are specific funds on cyber security, advanced manufacturing and £30 million, and that all-important R&D investment for innovation.
For responses so far. Northern Ireland is indeed open for business, and I am delighted at the companies that are expressing investment in my hometown. Would you agree with me, though, that the Dublin to Belfast economic corridor that takes in my constituency of Lagan Valley is going to play a key part in this, and that is a huge opportunity for investment?
Belfast is already at the heart of the UK's industrial strategy on cyber and tech, and that is leading in the world as well. The government has a bold vision to be, by 2035, one of the top 3 places in the world to invest, create and scale up a tech business. And Belfast and the Growth and City deals, which is at the heart of that, is very much an important part of that. So I've met businesses across Belfast and Northern Ireland that are leading on this, and it's very exciting to see.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister accept, though, that poor road access from the north of the United Kingdom is one impediment to investment in Northern Ireland, and therefore that is another reason why we should see the A75 upgraded?
Minister.
The Secretary of State has already answered the question on the roads, and it's important that we look at all of the parts of infrastructure which are holding Northern Ireland back in any way and address those.
Gregory Campbell.
Tech businesses in Northern Ireland could take advantage of a Heathrow logistics hub. Would the Minister agree with me that Ballykelly in my constituency has a large available land base, a seaport close by, an airport next door to it, and a railway line that runs through it? Yeah. Does she think that's an excellent location for such a hub and tech business?
The member is an excellent representative for his constituency, and the opportunities are there, and I'm sure that his plea and his bid has been heard here today.
Tony Antony, acting Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Chair of the Select Committee and also as Chair of the Group for All-Party Parliamentary Group for ITV, last night we hosted an event in Parliament where we had ITV and UTV here. What conversations is she having with public sector broadcasters like ITV about future investment in Northern Ireland?
Minister.
The role of so many different types of business, including public sector broadcasters, but also tech companies, fintech, cyber security and other advanced manufacturing such as Catagen, which I met last week, are all part of the ecosystem in Northern Ireland, which is so strong. And I think that it's the fact that broadcasters can talk to advanced manufacturers, can talk to others, that makes Northern Ireland such a fantastic place to invest in. And I'm glad that that's being highlighted here in the House of Commons today.
Sir Ashley Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Britain leads the world in the gene editing of crops. This technology enables our farmers to produce disease and drought-resistant crops, reduce costs and increase food production. Now, the UK-EU trade agreement means Britain has to follow EU rules on sanitary and phytosanitary laws. So will the Minister give the House an assurance that the agreement will not slow that technology in Britain?
Minister.
That's why the Secretary of State has been extolling and making clear how important the SPS agreement is. We are not taking our foot off the pedal in any way towards that. It's not only agri-science but also life sciences that are really leading the way for Northern Ireland, for the UK and across the world today, and we want to make sure we continue to support them every way that we can.
Go along.
Question 4, Mr. Speaker.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 4, 8 and 14 together. I meet regularly with the Finance Minister to discuss funding. The Government will provide Northern Ireland with a record settlement of £19.3 billion per year on average, the largest in the history of devolution, and the Executive will also continue to receive over 24% more per person in line with their independently assessed level of need.
Minister Singh Josan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Secretary of State agree that record funding for Northern Ireland through the spending review reflects this government's broader commitment to fairer funding across the UK, including in areas like Cornwall, where rurality, seasonal pressures, historic underfunding are finally being recognised, and that many in Cornwall would welcome the opportunity to further shape our own future through a level of devolution closer to that enjoyed in Northern Ireland?
Seriously.
Well, the spending review settlement does indeed reflect the government's commitment to provide resources right across the United Kingdom, and the money being made available for Northern Ireland means, what, a year ago people were saying there was going to be a financial, a fiscal cliff edge. No one is saying that now.
Gurinder Singh Josan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is very bad taste. There is no need to run through. Please, Gurinder Singh Josan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Local growth funding has provided vital investment for many communities across Northern Ireland in recent years. Can the Secretary of State confirm that the new local growth fund will give sectors across Northern Ireland the longer-awaited security they need?
Minister,
well, my honourable friend will have noticed the funding made available for local growth, and of course, as part of the spending review, discussions on the fiscal framework will be taken forward by my right honourable friend, the Chief Secretary of the Treasury and the Department of Finance, to talk about things like the Holton Review and capital borrowing by the Northern Ireland Housing Executive.
Snell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Whether it's Stoke-on-Trent in the West Midlands or the proud communities in Northern Ireland, the spending review anticipates helping those with good jobs and industrial improvements. So can the Secretary of State set out how the spending review will help improve the industrial base in Northern Ireland?
Well, the spending review gives the Northern Ireland Executive more funds to disperse as it sees fit. It comes alongside the publication of the industrial strategy, the funds which the government is making available, and the £30 million that will come to Northern Ireland through UKRI. So there's funding available, and there's great wealth, talent and potential in Northern Ireland to make the best use of it.
Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What assessment has the Minister made on the impacts of Barnett funding on health in Northern Ireland, given that the health's financial bid falls below requested and required levels each year? Very important we have the funding for health. Can the Secretary of State outline what that will be? Thank you.
Well, the government makes available funding through the block grant to the Northern Ireland Executive. As the honourable gentleman will know, it is for the Northern Ireland Executive to decide how it distributes the money between all of the needs in Northern Ireland, including health, where of course there are significant pressures. But the Public Services Transformation funding that the last government made available is now beginning to be used to reform some of the way in which the health service works.
Shadow Secretary of State Alex Burkhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The spending review settlement for the Northern Ireland office explicitly covers the Finucane inquiry. But so far, the government has refused to say how much money has been set aside for that inquiry. So will the Secretary of State please tell the House how much does the government expect the inquiry to cost?
Secretary of State.
The Finucane inquiry is beginning its work now. It will publish, as is normal, statements of the expenditure that is gauged in. It depends how long the inquiry lasts and how much evidence is taken, but the honourable gentleman can rest assured that he will receive an answer in due course as that process unfolds.
Alex Burkhardt.
The government has just had a spending review. It must know how much it intends to spend. There will be a line in the Treasury account set aside for the Finucane inquiry. I don't understand why the Secretary of State finds it so hard to tell the House how much we expect to spend. Similarly, the government must know how much compensation it expects to pay Gerry Adams following its inexplicable decision to drop the appeal that we lodged in its case. We have repeatedly pressed the government to legislate to prevent that compensation from being paid, and the government has dragged its heels. This morning, Policy Exchange has published an excellent new report legislating about Gerry Adams in Kaltona, which sets out a clear legal solution. The government has nowhere further to hide. Will the government finally do the right thing?
Well, I would say to the honourable gentleman he needs to keep up, because I answered a parliamentary question yesterday in which I made it clear that we will deal with this issue, which arises because of the application of the Kaltona principle in the Supreme Court judgment of 2020, which the last government couldn't sort out in 2.5 years. We will deal with it in our forthcoming legislation, and I will keep the House updated.
In Robinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I commend the Secretary of State for at least that he has answered a question yesterday, and he is very clearly, despite on a day whenever the Labour government were prepared to take money out of the pockets of the most vulnerable, they at least had the courage to stand forward and say Gerry Adams would get none. So thank you to the Secretary of State for that. Can I also advise the Secretary of State not to ignore the warnings of the Federation of Small Business, who were explicit in their report that the Windsor Framework is fracturing the United Kingdom's internal market. That is a cause for concern. But when talking of the spending review, he was asked 2 weeks ago whether the financial transactions capital being made available to Casement Park was additional or not. He knows the Blue Book has a flat line for the next 5 years. So what was it?
Well, the answer to the right honourable gentleman is that it is additional.
Gavin Robinson.
He knows the Blue Book has a flat line for the next 5 years. But talking of economic growth, he also knows there's a commitment for an enhanced investment zone in Northern Ireland. When does he believe that the businesses of Northern Ireland will benefit from that?
Well, I would say to the right honourable gentleman, if he just bears with us, then I hope we can see progress on that in the not-too-distant future.
That completes Northern Ireland questions. Before we come to Prime Minister questions, can I welcome to the gallery His Excellency Ahmad Safadi, Speaker of the House of Representatives of Jordan, and his delegation. We now come to Prime Minister's questions. Paul Ward.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Saturday.
OK, there seems to be a bit of a challenge on who can cheer the most. I've never known one Prime Minister get as much cheering. Come on, Prime Minister.
I think they were cheering more, Mr. Speaker. Quite right, too. This Saturday marks the 77th birthday of our National Health Service. And I want to begin by thanking our dedicated NHS staff for their service. And in that 77th year, I'm proud that this Labour government has delivered 4 million extra appointments, 1,700 more GPs, and the lowest waiting list for 2 years. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party is proud to have been the party that created the NHS, and tomorrow we're announcing our 10-year health plan to build an NHS fit for the future, so that in many years and decades to come, we can still proudly celebrate the anniversary of the NHS. Mr. Speaker, may I also wish England and Wales the best of luck in the Women's Euros. And, of course, congratulate England's under-21s on retaining the Euros. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When this Labour government extended free school meals to 500,000 more children last month, Laura, a working mum in Rochdale, told me it would save her £500 a year. She said, "I'm over the moon, only Labour would have done this." Does the Prime Minister agree with me that people voted Labour a year ago not just for change but for hope, and that cutting child poverty is the moral mission of this government to help every child in this country? Mr. Speaker, I'm really proud that we extended free school meals for another 500,000 children, including Laura's. And it's people like Laura that we have in our mind's eye, and giving children the best start in life. And I think the Child Poverty Task Force visited Rochdale recently and will continue to back parents like Laura. But, Mr. Speaker, we've already started not just free school meals being rolled out, free breakfast clubs, extending childcare. That's real change under this Labour government.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, can I first of all take this opportunity to congratulate the member for Rochdale for being the toady of the week, helping the Prime Minister. We all know it's
There's a lot of people wanting to catch my eye today. There is some free hits on this side. I won't waste your opportunity.
It's been a difficult week for the Prime Minister. So let's start with something simple. Can the Prime Minister tell the House how much his welfare bill is going to save?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying free school matters on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, in relation to welfare, What we delivered last night was a bill which ends mandatory reassessment of those with severe disabilities. That is the right thing to do. It rebalances universal credit. That is long overdue, and it sets out a pathway to reform of PIP. Mr. Speaker, it's consistent with the principles I set out throughout. If you can work, you should work. If you need help into work, the state should provide the help. The system that they broke doesn't do so. And if you can't work...
I think there's one or two I can spot immediately. Usual voices, same names, please. It's too early to leave the chamber. Prime Minister.
And, Mr. Speaker, if you can't work, you must be supported and protected. The reformed welfare system that we're putting in place will be better for individuals, better for the taxpayer and better for the economy.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think the Prime Minister actually watched what happened in the House yesterday. His bill was completely gutted. A U-turn in the middle of the debate, removing Clause 5. Where on earth was he? The reason why he can't answer the question is because he knows it doesn't save any money. It's going to cost millions. This is the first Prime Minister in history to propose a bill to save money who ended up with a bill which costs money. So if the bill doesn't cut welfare spending, can the Prime Minister tell the House how many people it will get into work?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad she asked that because it gives me the opportunity to say we've already started changing the job centres and investing in support back into work. The Trailblazer scheme, which is doing exactly what she asked me, which is getting people back into work. The bill last night will help people back into work, and of course the Timms review is ongoing. But I tell you what won't help people back into work, won't help control the costs, and that is voting to keep the broken system. And that is what they did last night. Everybody in this House accepts that the current system is broken. It invites the question, who broke it? They broke it. And last night, they voted for the status quo. The broken system is their policy. That won't help individuals, taxpayer, and it certainly won't help the economy.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell him what we did on welfare. Yes, they can laugh. While they're laughing, they don't know. My party delivered the biggest reform of welfare in government. We got record numbers of people into work, including millions of disabled people, and we cut the deficit every year until COVID. The fact is, we're not scared of doing difficult things on this side of the House. We got people back into work. What he forgets is that since the election, since he became Prime Minister, an additional 1,000 people a day are signing on to incapacity benefits. That is 50% more than under us. 50% more than under us. And, Mr. Speaker, astonishingly, because of the mess they made yesterday, because there are no more savings, sickness benefits alone are set to rise to £100 billion on his watch. He cannot reduce that now.
Order. Mr. McKee, I think we've had a run-in before. I certainly don't want any more. Seriously, you're obviously not getting your timing right because I can hear your voice every time.
I'll start again, Mr. Speaker. Sickness benefits, louder for those at the back, sickness benefits are set to rise to £100 billion because of their mess. They cannot now reduce it. They can't reduce it because after last night's humiliating U-turn, we know he cannot control his MPs. They're cheering now, but you signed the amendment. Over 100 people signed that reasoned amendment until the bill was completely gutted. He said that he would take the difficult decisions, but isn't the reality that he is too weak to get anything done?
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell them what they did to the welfare system. They broke it. And it's the same as the NHS. What did they do? They broke it. Same as the economy. What did they do? They broke it. They broke everything that they touched. And now she describes the broken system that we are trying to fix. What did she do? She voted against fixing the system that they broke. And I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, and spell that out, they voted last night for the system that is keeping 1 million young people not learning or earning. That is a disgrace of their system. They voted for a system where we have 3 million people out of work on ill health, and they voted for that system. We're fixing it. We're clearing up the mess that they left, just like we're clearing up the NHS and the economy.
He's got some brass neck. Has he read the papers this morning? Has he read the papers this morning? That bill will achieve nothing. It is a pointless waste of time and is absolute proof that he doesn't have a plan. Let me tell the House what's going to happen. In November, the Chancellor is going to put up our taxes to pay for his incompetence. We on this side of the House know that you can't tax your way to growth. But people out there are frightened. People out there... Yes. These are the same people who cheered when they talked about the NI rise and the jobs tax. Why are they complaining now? People out there are frightened. Can he, Mr. Speaker, can he reassure them by ruling out tax rises in the autumn budget?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she knows that no Prime Minister or Chancellor ever stands at the dispatch box and writes budgets in the future. That isn't what they did, it isn't what we did, and she knows it. But she talks about growth. For 14 years, we had stagnation, and that is what caused the problems. And I'm really pleased, Mr. Speaker, to show the progress that we're making. I can update the House. Last week, Amazon put in £40 billion of investment into this country, one of the biggest investments of its time. That brought the inward investment to £120 billion in the first year of this Labour government. Mr. Speaker, I can also tell the House that business confidence is the highest for 9 years. That's longer than the whole time that the leading opposition's been in Parliament. And the figures this week demonstrated and showed we had the fastest growth in the G7 in the first quarter of this year. What a difference to the mess they left. That's the difference a Labour government made.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about jobs. Unemployment has risen every month since Labour took office. Has he spoken to Nissan, by the way, and looked at what's happening there? This man has forgotten that his welfare bill was there to plug a black hole created by the Chancellor. Instead, they're creating new ones. They're creating new ones. She looks... Mr. Speaker, she's pointing at me. She looks absolutely miserable. Labour MPs, yeah, she looks absolutely miserable. Labour MPs, they can point as much as they like. The fact is, Labour MPs are going on the record saying that the Chancellor is toast, and the reality is that she is a human shield for his incompetence. In January, he said that she would be in post till the next election. Will she really?
Prime Minister.
Well, she certainly won't. Mr. Speaker, I have to say I'm always cheered up when she asks me questions or responds to a statement, because she always makes a complete mess of it and shows just how unserious and irrelevant they are. But she talks about the black hole. They left a £22 billion black hole in our economy, and we're clearing it up. And I'm really proud, Mr. Speaker, that in the first year of a Labour government we got free school meals, breakfast clubs, childcare, got £15 billion invested in transport in the North and the Midlands. With cutting regulation, planning and infrastructure is pounding forward, building 1.5 million homes, the biggest investment in social and affordable housing, and of course, Mr. Speaker, the 3 trade deals. Remember the ones that they couldn't get, including the US trade deal. On Monday, those tariffs came down. That secured the jobs at JLR. That's who we care about on this side of the House.
How awful for the Chancellor that he couldn't confirm that she would stay in place. Yeah. He talks about this year in office. This week marks the first anniversary of Labour coming into office. And let's have it. Yes. The whips can't get them in the lobbies, but they can get them to cheer at the right time. Yeah. The fact is, his own MPs are saying this government is, and I quote, incoherent and shambolic. That's Liverpool Wavertree that said that. I could go on and on. But the fact is, it's been mistake after mistake after mistake. There is no plan to get people into work. There is no plan to cut the welfare budget. There is no strategy. There is just a series of humiliating U-turns like winter fuel, like grooming gangs. Mr. Speaker, what's really shocking is that every other party in this House voted for even more welfare spending yesterday. Yes, those MPs behind him and the Lib Dems and Reform. The Conservative Party believes that this country needs to live within its means. We know what we believe, Mr. Speaker, but this is a Prime Minister who has U-turned on everything he's done in office, including his own speeches, because he doesn't know what he believes. With left-wing Labour MPs now running the government, isn't it working people who will now pay the price?
Mr. Speaker, this is why she always cheers me up. She talks about living within their means, having left a £22 billion black hole. Mr. Speaker, she talks about the first year. I'm really proud of our first year in government. We promised, Mr. Speaker, 2 million extra NHS appointments. We've delivered 4 million. A promise made and a promise delivered. We promised the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation within the first 100 days. Promise made, promise delivered. We promised free breakfast clubs. That's a promise made and a promise delivered. Banning bonuses for water bosses who pollute our rivers. That's the mess they left. A promise made and a promise delivered. Creating GB Energy. A promise made and a promise delivered. The largest increase in defence spending since the last Labour government. A promise made and a promise delivered. And putting more money in the pockets of working people, particularly the 3 million who are the lowest paid through the national minimum wage. A promise made and a promise delivered. We're only getting started, and the Chancellor has led on all these issues, and we're grateful to her for it.
Natasha Iron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, unlike the members opposite, this government has not dragged its feet in banning zombie knives, ninja-style swords and its effort to tackle knife crime. And in Croydon, where youth violence has cast a devastating shadow across our communities, our local police is running a surrender scheme this month to get these dangerous weapons off our streets. So will the Prime Minister join me in commending the tireless work of Croydon's police officers? And will he outline what his government is doing to ensure the Met Police has the resources it needs both to protect neighbourhood policing and to face the unique challenges that they face?
Prime Minister.
Well, she's right to raise the importance of banning these despicable weapons, and I know how much she cares about this issue. The ban on zombie knives and machetes came into effect last year, and the ban on ninja swords will come into effect this August. The Crime and Policing Bill will increase penalties for illegal sales and give the police new powers to seize knives. Mr. Speaker, I have to say this. What did the party opposite do when we put that bill before the House to take these measures? They voted against it. And knife crime went up, soared on their watch, and they've clearly learned absolutely nothing.
Sir Ed David, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the government was asking this House to vote for a law that would mean someone with a condition like Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis would qualify for a personal independence payment today, but someone diagnosed with the same condition with the very same symptoms in a few months' time would not. We all know that the cost of welfare needs to come down, but that was not a fair way to do it. Until he lost control yesterday, the Prime Minister was arguing for that approach. Has he changed his mind on this or not?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Stephen Timms review will take place. It's a very important review to look into this issue. But what we did do last night was end mandatory reassessments for those with severe disabilities. I thought that he and his party cared about things like that. It's the right thing to do, and they voted, Mr. Speaker, against it. We rebalanced universal credit, long overdue. I think he believes that. But what did he do last night? He voted against it. We set out a pathway to reform PIP, something he argues for every week. And what did he do when he had the chance? He voted against it.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, the House and his backbenchers will note that he didn't answer my question. Moreover, if he looked at our proposals for welfare reform, for cutting down the bill, he wouldn't be in the mess that he's in. But moving on, Mr. Speaker, from Hillsborough to Grenfell, Primados to Horizon, the contaminated blood scandal to nuclear test veterans, the bereaved and survivors of some of our country's most appalling scandals have come together to call for a legal duty of candour and the secondary duty needed to make it practical and effective for investigations and inquiries. Now they're frightened that the government is watering down these proposals to such an extent that they would be toothless. So after months of delay, can the Prime Minister reassure campaigners that his Hillsborough law will include a real legal duty of candour as he promised?
Prime Minister. Yes, it will. And as he may know, I've known some of the families from Hillsborough for many years now. I met them over a decade ago and know exactly what they have been through, and the various other groups that have suffered similar injustices with similar follow-up, which is an additional injustice on top of the original injustice. And that's why we will bring forward a Hillsborough law. It's a commitment I've made. I have been talking to the families in recent weeks, personally myself, to make sure that we get this right, and it is important that we get it right, but it will have a legal duty of candour.
Kim Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Follow-on question. The Prime Minister visited my constituency in 2022 and told families, and I quote, "One of my first acts will be to put the Hillsborough law on the statute book." Repeated the same promise at conference last year that the bill would be published at the anniversary in April. That didn't happen. However, the government are now planning to table a watered-down version that doesn't deserve to be named Hillsborough law. After PMQs, my honourable friend, the member for Liverpool West Derby, will introduce the real Hillsborough law. So can the Prime Minister finally honour his promise and back the law in full? If not, why not?
Prime Minister.
I'm grateful to her for raising this and remember well the visit that we had. This is a really serious issue, Mr. Speaker. It is important that we get it right. I am fully committed to introducing a Hillsborough law, including a legal duty of candour for public servants and criminal sanctions for those that refuse to comply. It is important we get it right. I have been personally engaging with some of the families on this because, as I say, I've been involved and seen firsthand what they've been through for over 10 years. I first met them when I was Director of Public Prosecutions, and there was a consideration of what order certain things would happen. That was about a different issue, actually. It was about an issue of great concern to them. But she's right to raise this. We will bring this forward. I just want to take the time to get it right and then put it before the House.
Stephen Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In his victory speech last year, the Prime Minister promised to end the chaos. Does he think that the public still believe him?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, we've delivered more in the first year of a Labour government than they've delivered in 20 years. Let me give him one example. We had waiting lists. We said we'd do 2 million extra appointments. We've done 4 million for the NHS in England. What a contrast, Mr. Speaker, where they've been in charge for that 20 years. Scotland's doctors now saying, in the past week, I think, and this is their quote, that the Scottish NHS is, their quote, dying before our very eyes. They should be ashamed. Their own Public Health Minister is admitting that the SNP failure is costing lives. Scotland need new direction so it can bring waiting lists down in Scotland, just like we've done in England.
David Taylor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hemel Hempstead is a new town that was built by a Labour government after the Second World War and provided decent housing to families like mine. Yet, 80 years on, the #1 issue in my casework is a shortage of housing. I therefore welcome this government's commitment to build thousands of new homes. In my constituency, we're looking at a Hemel Gardens community scheme that could provide 11,000 of them. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that this development needs to be a mix of genuinely affordable houses to buy, council houses to rent, and be accompanied by the right health, education and road infrastructure?
Minister.
Well, I totally agree with him, and it's projects like this that are essential to building the 1.5 million homes that we need, whilst at the same time creating vibrant and strong communities. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with the Attlee legacy, we're supporting 47 locally led garden communities to deliver tens of thousands more homes, and of course delivering the biggest boost to social and affordable houses in a generation.
Mr. McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday afternoon this week, a 4-year-old girl was seriously injured after being hit by a car on Lewis Road, just off the A259 in Newhaven, in my constituency. I can report to the House that she's recovering well in hospital. Residents in Newhaven, Seaford and nearby Sussex coastal towns have been warning about how unsafe these roads are. Indeed, the County Council submitted a fully costed plan for safety improvements on the A259 to government, but funding remains blocked. So I'm asking, or appealing to the Prime Minister directly, will he personally intervene to unblock the funding needed to make the A259 and surrounding roads safer to ensure there is never a repeat of an incident like this?
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear of the incident that he quotes, and my sympathies with the family, and I think I would send the best wishes of the whole House to the family and to the little girl. He speaks about this A259. I do hear a lot about this road because it runs through the constituency of my honourable friend for Brighton, Kemp Down and Peacehaven. And I know it needs addressing, and I know how strongly they've both been raising this and campaigning on it. A decision is going to be set out shortly. I think he has met the Roads Minister, but I'll make sure that he's kept fully updated of developments.
Olivia Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud to represent thousands of people working in the defence sector. Ordinary people doing extraordinary jobs to keep our country safe. And I was delighted that the Defence Secretary recently joined me in my constituency to mark this government's £15 billion investment in the atomic weapons establishment. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that our commitment to defence sector investment is vital not just for our national security, but for jobs, opportunity and growth in constituencies like Reading West and Mid-Berkshire?
Prime Minister.
Well, I pay tribute to her, and she's a fantastic advocate for her constituents. She's right to highlight the important work by the defence sector in her constituency and, of course, right across the United Kingdom. We are investing £15 billion in our sovereign nuclear warhead programme. That will support, Mr. Speaker, nearly 10,000 jobs, including many in her constituency. And that's the defence dividend in action, a historic boost to defence spending, represented and reflected in good, well-paid jobs across the United Kingdom.
Adrian Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that the government appears to be in listening mode, will the Prime Minister agree to scrap other measures that are pushing more people into poverty, such as the cruel two-child benefit cap and the harsh and totally unacceptable cuts to universal credit for ill and disabled people, which remain in yesterday's dog's breakfast of a bill?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to be ungenerous, but I don't think I'm going to be listening to him or his party. They were the ones that put an £80 billion unfunded tax commitment before the electorate at the last election. And they're the ones that talk about change and clean power, but every single time there's an infrastructure project or there's any change that's needed, they block it, including in their own constituencies.
Joe White.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whilst we all revere the football stars of the past, many are struggling with welfare issues, including organised financial fraud and head injuries linked to the onset of dementia. May I give the Prime Minister this letter on player welfare from 303 former players? Local champions like John Stiles and international superstars, including Kevin Keegan and Graham Souness, have signed it. Would he agree to request to meet a group of ex-players as cited in the recent letter to the Prime Minister from one of his heroes, Michael Thomas, who of course shone when he played for Arsenal and Liverpool?
Prime Minister.
Can I just start by congratulating Dawn Assel on her recent and richly deserved MBE for her work on behalf of former players. I do remember Michael Thomas very well, putting that goal in injury time, Mr. Speaker, in 1989 to take the lead. It was a fantastic victory. I have had the pleasure of meeting him and actually discussing with him the very campaign that she raises. I'll certainly meet him again, because athletes have brought us so much joy. We should have proper support from their sporting bodies on health and welfare, and we will ensure that they do.
Steph Aquarell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I refer members to my role as a serving county councillor. Mr. Speaker, July is Good Care Month, and Jane Austen told us the best place for convalescence by the sea is Cromer in my constituency. However, thanks to Norfolk's Conservative County Council, Cromer risks losing its convalescence facility forever. Reablement centres like Benjamin Court are exactly what the NHS needs, and yet the Tories are shutting it down. Will the Prime Minister ensure that the relevant Health Minister meets with me and concerned local campaigners to discuss what could be done to save Benjamin Court?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank you for raising this important issue, and decisions around services are matters for the Integrated Care Board, and that means they're taken locally, obviously. But I'm glad that he's raised this, because we agree that the sector does need reform, and unlike the party opposite, we're investing in the sector £4 billion of additional funding alongside an independent commission into adult social care to improve the quality of care across the United Kingdom, including for his constituents.
Martin Rhodes.
Mr Speaker, figures from the British Transport Police show a staggering 47% rise in violence and serious public order offences against rail staff between 2021 and 2024. This epidemic of violence was allowed to escalate under the previous Conservative government, which failed to act while frontline workers were increasingly put at risk. Does the Prime Minister agree that our transport workers deserve to do their jobs without fear, and will he reaffirm this Labour government's commitment to ensuring that train operating companies are held fully accountable for protecting those who keep our railways safe and moving?
Prime Minister.
There are shocking statistics, and rail staff work incredibly hard to keep our country running and keep people safe, and the abuse and assault on staff is utterly unacceptable. And we're taking measures to make sure they are safer. We want to encourage, Mr Speaker, the use of body-worn cameras, which have been proven to reduce violence against staff by up to 47%. And may I take this opportunity to thank our outstanding British Transport Police for everything that they do to support staff and passengers.
Harriet Ross.
This time a year ago, farmers and many others across the country were about to go to the polls, perhaps about to vote Labour for the first time, because they took at the Prime Minister's own word that he and his party would never leave farmers in the background again. Within weeks, however, that trust had been completely shattered by the family farm tax. Farmers know how devastating that tax will be. The industry know how devastating it will be. We on these benches know how devastating it will be, and more of his own backbenchers do too. So following the U-turn on the winter fuel payments, and following the U-turn on grooming gangs, and following the many U-turns on welfare payments yesterday, will the Prime Minister now tell farmers up and down the country when it will be their turn for a U-turn and that he will scrap the family farm tax?
This time a year ago, the country was lining up to boot them out of office. And long may they remain there. Mr Speaker, we put in place the most significant funding for farmers in the budget. We've got a roadmap for work for farmers that we're working on. And, of course, where they fail to actually spend the money, we're spending it with farmers.
Charlotte Littles.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The nuclear industry provides over 29,000 jobs across the North West, including thousands in Birchwood Park in my constituency, which is a globally leading centre of nuclear innovation. I welcome the government's new modern industrial strategy, which will give businesses the confidence to invest after years of economic chaos under the last government. Can the PM outline how the industrial strategy will support the growth of the nuclear sector, which is vital for our energy security and creating thousands more high-paid, high-skilled and unionised jobs?
Prime Minister.
She's a champion of nuclear, and I know how important it is to thousands of her constituents. Mr Speaker, we are securing homegrown energy and driving bills down by unleashing a golden age of nuclear. And that includes Sizewell C, which we announced just 2 or 3 weeks ago, small modular reactors, and that means jobs, investment and opportunities across the country, including in her constituency.
Joria Collins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The rush changes to the welfare bill not only left Parliament with whiplash, but more importantly, have left many vulnerable people living in limbo, like Chris or Emma in my constituency, who were set to lose PIP that they rely on for work. And Chris has already lost a vital carer through all of this uncertainty. It is not right that in a society, vulnerable people have to be worried about what the government will do next. Does the Prime Minister understand that this has eroded trust at a time when we need it most?
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think what would be better for building trust is an accurate description of what we're doing. The Stephen Timms inquiry review is really important to look at this really important issue, but we have to get on and reform. We have a broken system that is not working for those that are using the system. It's not working for the taxpayer. It's not working for the economy. We have to get on and reform it, and we'll do it in the way we set out yesterday.
Peter Dowd.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. May I pay tribute to veterans of the Royal Naval Association Crosby branch who are in the gallery today. Mr Speaker, Gabe Santa, a 15-year-old, fell to his death from a multi-storey car park in Liverpool in 2020. He is one of the many dying in such tragic circumstances, including in my constituency. My multi-storey car park safety bill seeks to prevent such deaths. Will the government look carefully at its contents as part of a national suicide prevention strategy?
Minister.
The answer is yes, we will look at the content of it, and I'm grateful to him for raising it. I think across the House we've all got tragic experience of suicide, and our thoughts are with Gabe's family and with his friends. We will conduct a call for evidence on Part K of the building regulations about minimum guarding heights, so that necessary protections are in place to prevent future tragedies. We will also look at the contents of the bill.
Dame Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, people across the Staffordshire Moorlands are extremely concerned by the number of solar farms and battery storage facilities that are having applications granted. Can you please, Prime Minister, give them some reassurance that you will change the law and that we will see good agricultural land saved for producing food as it rightly should be?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's right that we do both and do support agriculture, but she says people across the country are concerned about solar. They are also concerned about their bills coming down. They went up under the last government. The only way to get them down is on renewables, and that's what we're doing.
Final question, Jessica Warden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This morning in Westminster Hall, Centenary Action presented sashes handmade by a team of wonderful women working out of Newport's remake to every one of our 264 women MPs to mark today's 97th anniversary of the Equal Franchise Act. Will the Prime Minister join me in welcoming this initiative, which celebrates the contribution women make in public life? And although we now have a record number of women MPs, does he agree we must ensure we continue to break down barriers for women on our way to achieving the mission of a gender-equal Parliament?
Can I, through her, thank the women in her constituency for their hard work on this initiative, and having 264 women MPs is a really significant progress in this House. I'm incredibly proud that at last election we saw 100 new female Labour MPs elected, meaning the number of female MPs in the Labour Party is now at a record high, and on the 97th anniversary of the Equal Franchise Act, it should be a source of great pride to the House that we have a record number of female members.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Let the front bench change over.